At Christmas, my dad demanded $8,400 for a family vacation I wasn't invited to. He smirked, "You're paying, not going." So I paid. A lawyer. Their cards declined at the airport. You know that gut-wrenching feeling when a family moment turns utterly, irrevocably cold? When you're handed a piece of paper that screams, louder than any argument, that your child is utterly worthless to them? That's exactly what happened to me on Christmas Day, when my own father served me an $8,400 bill for a family vacation, a vacation my daughter wasn't even invited to. Christmas dinner at my dad's house always felt less like a celebration and more like a meticulously scheduled event. Coats on the bed, shoes lined up like little soldiers. My sister Beth's kids, a whirlwind of energy, would charge through the hallways, and the adults would just pretend the noise wasn't slowly drilling into their skulls. But I should have known something was terribly off the second I saw them, 3 matching Vukuri 2026 sweatshirts, folded neatly on the back of the couch. All kid sizes. None for my Nora. My daughter, Nora, stood by the Christmas tree, her small hands clasped behind her back, rocking on her heels. It was her tell, that quiet little sway, when she was trying to be brave. She was only 9, a gentle, polite soul who'd say "excuse me" to the dog. She'd picked out her green dress herself, even curled the ends of her hair. She wanted to look like a real grandkid. God, that thought still makes my throat tighten. Dinner itself was a blur. Beth accidentally forgot the salad she promised. My dad poured himself a second drink before dessert was even served. Then, he did the thing he loved most. He made an announcement. He stood up in the living room, puffing out his chest, like he was about to hand out Olympic medals. Beth's kids, well-rehearsed, snapped into a line. They knew the routine. My dad loved order, loved to prove something with his gift-giving. He held up 3 white envelopes. Not festive Christmas envelopes, mind you. These were those stark, official airport envelopes with bold print and a tiny airline logo. Beth's oldest, Tanner, ripped his open. A scream of pure joy. It was a printed itinerary, his name bold, for a family vacation. Beth's middle child, Kenzie, next. Same squeal, same reaction. Little Milo, the youngest, got his and immediately started flapping it around like a tiny, delighted bird. Everyone laughed. My dad beamed, as if he'd personally invented happiness. Then, his eyes, those familiar blue eyes, flicked to Nora. He didn't offer her an envelope. He just gave her a dismissive nod, like she was an extra, a piece of scenery. Nora's bright smile stayed plastered on her face for a second too long, then, slowly, agonizingly, it slid off. My hands went cold. She looked down, fiddling with the ribbon on her dress. I waited. I waited for my dad to say her name, to call her forward. He didn't. He cleared his throat, then turned to me. He slid a 4th envelope across the coffee table. This one was noticeably thicker, heavier. I figured it's best to be upfront, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I opened it. Inside, a single sheet of paper, typed with a chilling neatness, like a bill from a dentist. $8,400, your share. Underneath, in smaller print, a detailed breakdown, flights, resort, car rental, park tickets, an emergency fund, even souvenirs for the kids. My share. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. What was this? My dad's eyes darted to Nora for half a second, then snapped back to me. A family vacation, he said, his tone making me feel like the slow one. We're planning it. I swallowed. I wasn't invited. Beth made a little noise in her throat, a warning, like I was about to embarrass her. My dad didn't even blink. He just smiled. Not warm, not awkward. Just confident. You're paying, he stated. Not attending. Your sister's kids need this. The room went impossibly quiet. I could hear Nora's shoes squeak faintly as she shifted. The Christmas lights on the tree hummed. My own pulse thudded in my ears. I forced my voice to stay level. So, you bought tickets for Beth's kids, you made a budget, and you decided my role was what? Sponsor? My dad shrugged. You do well for yourself. Beth jumped in, fast, almost panicky. Dad, don't make it sound like that. Larry, it's just, you know how hard it's been. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was tragically familiar. In my family, how hard it's been always translated to Larry will handle it. Nora took a tiny step closer to me, her hand brushing my sleeve. I looked down. Did I do something wrong? She whispered, so quietly I almost missed it. And that was it. Not the bill. Not my dad's smug smirk. Not Beth's pathetic performance. It was that question. From a child who had already worked so hard just to be small, to be unnoticed. My throat tightened until it ached. My hands shook, but I kept my face still. I bent down, kissed the top of her head, and whispered back, "No, you didn't, sweetie." Then I stood up. I folded the paper once, carefully, as if it were something sharp. My dad watched me, expecting a fight, a capitulation. I didn't give him one. I just said, "I'll think about it." And I took Nora's coat from the chair. Beth's eyes widened. Larry, don't. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I didn't knock over a single tacky Christmas decoration. I just left. Nora held my hand so tightly in the driveway that my fingers went numb. In the car, she just stared out the window the entire ride home, blinking fast, trying not to cry. I drove with my jaw clenched, every muscle tight, thinking about all the times I'd convinced myself my dad was just old-fashioned or set in his ways, as if that made his cruelty less real. All I could see were those 3 white envelopes and the empty space where Nora should have been. I'm Larry. I was 39 then. I lived in a 2-bedroom rental outside Columbus. I worked as a journalist, mostly local investigative stuff, city contracts, corruption stories. The kind of work that makes you unpopular at parties but lets you sleep at night. Nora came into my life 2 years earlier. She wasn't my biological child. She was my late wife's niece. After my wife died, Nora bounced around. Relatives meant well, I guess, but they treated her like an inconvenience. I stepped in. I couldn't stand the thought of her growing up feeling unwanted. I adopted her, not to make a statement, but because she was already mine in every way that mattered. My family, at first, acted supportive. They used the right words. Brought a casserole. Told people at church how generous I was. But the tone shifted fast. Nora didn't match their picture. She didn't share my last name originally. She didn't have Beth's kids' loud confidence. She didn't boom grandpa. She called my dad sir for the first month because she didn't know what she was allowed to call him. My dad pretended not to notice her. Beth treated her like a guest who'd overstayed. And me? I kept trying. Because that's what I always did. I tried to earn love in my family with effort and money. It didn't start with big asks. It started with little ones. Can you cover Dad's prescription this month? He'll pay you back. He never did. Can you help with Milo's braces? Insurance is being weird. Can you put the plane tickets on your card? We'll Venmo you. They never did. They always said we. They always meant me. Over the years, I paid for my dad's new water heater when his finally gave out. It didn't, he just wanted a nicer model. Beth's minivan down payment after she cried at my kitchen table about needing something safe for the kids. The family phone plan, because my dad liked the idea of one bill and Beth liked the idea of not paying it. Weeks of groceries, more times than I can count, because Beth would text, "Don't tell Dad, but we're low until Friday." I didn't keep a spreadsheet. I didn't want to feel bitter. But after that Christmas, I did the math. It was ugly. Over about 3 years, I'd poured somewhere between $22,000 and $25,000 into my family. In quiet ways. Not gifts. Not treating them. Just plugging holes. Because if I didn't plug them, they'd call me selfish. And the entire time, Nora stayed a +1. A kid whose name was spelled wrong on place cards. A kid whose stocking was forgotten until my mom cut her name out of printer paper and taped it on. A kid who got told, "Go play in the other room, sweetie," whenever adults were taking pictures. I swallowed it. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. I told myself they'd come around. But the truth was, the more I gave, the more comfortable they got treating me like a utility, like a checking account with a heartbeat. That Christmas bill wasn't sudden. It was the brutal, inevitable conclusion of a pattern. My dad had been furious the year before when I refused to co-sign a loan Beth wanted for a bigger place. I told him no, calmly, firmly. Not because I wanted Beth to struggle, but because I'd seen how she treated money, how she treated consequences. My dad took it personally, like my refusal was a profound disrespect. After that, the little slights started stacking up. Nora wasn't invited to Cousin's Day at Beth's. Nora wasn't included in the group chat photo dump because it was too many pictures already. Nora's birthday card from my parents was addressed to Nora twice. When I corrected them, my dad laughed and said, "You know what I meant." And I let it slide. Because it was easier than starting a war. Until the bill. Until you're paying, not attending. Until Nora asked if she did something wrong. That was my absolute last straw. Because it wasn't just about a vacation. It was about what that vacation represented. A family event where they planned to make memories and take pictures and post captions like #blessed, and my child wasn't part of that family unless my money was. The next morning, I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table while Nora watched cartoons in her pajamas. She laughed at something on the screen, a thin, forced sound. I stared at the bill again. $8,400. My dad had the nerve to price out souvenirs like it was a line item. I didn't call him. I didn't text Beth. I opened my laptop and searched for the lawyer my coworker had used during her divorce. Not because I was getting divorced. But because I needed someone who wasn't emotionally tangled in my family to tell me what I could do. Cleanly. Legally. Finally. Her name was Priya Patel. Her office was in a solid brick building downtown, with a lobby that smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper. When I called, her assistant asked what I needed. I heard myself say, "I need to separate finances from family." The words came out steady, even though my hand was shaking. They gave me an appointment for that afternoon. I used a sick day. I didn't tell anyone. I drove downtown with the bill in my pocket. It felt like it weighed 10 pounds. In Priya's office, she didn't flinch when I laid the paper on her desk. She read it once, then looked up at me. "Do you have any joint accounts?" she asked. I nodded. One checking account with my dad. It's old. He convinced me to open it for emergencies after my mom died. Any shared credit lines? I swallowed. My dad is an authorized user on one of my cards. Beth is on another. I added them years ago for family emergencies. Priya's face didn't change, but her voice went very calm. Authorized users can be removed, she said. And joint accounts can be closed or restructured, depending on the agreement. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Then I asked the question that made my stomach twist. If I stop paying, will it blow back on me? Priya leaned back slightly. Not if we do it correctly. The goal is to protect you and your child, and to make it hard for them to keep treating you like the bank. My chest tightened at the word child because that was the point. I wasn't doing this to punish them. I was doing this to protect Nora. Priya slid a retainer agreement across the desk. The amount at the bottom was almost the same as the bill my dad gave me. I stared at it, then laughed once, short and bitter. She raised an eyebrow. I said, "My dad handed me a bill for $8,400. I'm about to spend $8,400. Priya didn't smile. She just nodded like she understood exactly. I wrote a check. Not to my father. Not to my sister. To a lawyer. And when I handed it over, my hand stopped shaking. It felt like choosing my own spine. That night, after Nora went to bed, I sat on the couch with my laptop open and did what my family had never expected me to do. I took control. I logged into my banking app. I stared at the joint checking account with my dad, an account I'd used for years to transfer money when he texted needed help. The balance wasn't huge, but it didn't matter. It was symbolic. It was a leash. I clicked into the account settings and started the process to close it. The app asked me to confirm, then confirm again. It warned me, closing a joint account may require both parties. I took screenshots. Then I called the bank's customer service line and asked for a supervisor. I kept my voice flat. My father and I share this account. I need my name removed. The supervisor asked questions, verified my identity, put me on hold twice. My heart pounded the whole time. Finally, she said, we can restrict withdrawals and require dual authorization for any transfers until this is resolved. I said, do it. A confirmation email hit my inbox a minute later. Then I moved to the credit cards. The first one, my dad's authorized user status, took less than 5 minutes. I clicked Manage Users. I hovered over his name for a second, not because I doubted myself, but because I could practically hear his voice in my head, after everything I've done for you. I clicked Remove. The site asked, are you sure? I clicked Yes. Confirmation screen. Then Beth's card. She was on my travel card, my work trips, hotels card. I had added her when Milo was born early, and she'd cried about hospital bills. She'd promised she'd never use it unless she asked. She used it anyway. I'd caught charges for Target and a nail salon once. She'd laughed it off, oh, it was an accident. I grabbed the wrong one. Sure. I removed her too. 2 confirmation emails, 2 severed cords. Then, I turned off autopay on the family phone plan I'd been covering. I transferred Nora's phone number to a separate plan, under my name only. I did it all like I was filing a story. Step by step, screenshots, receipts. No emotion. Just facts. When I finally closed my laptop, it was after midnight. My living room was quiet. The Christmas tree lights blinked like nothing had changed. But I felt different. Not angry. Clear. The next morning, my phone started lighting up. First my dad, then Beth, then my dad again. I let them go to voicemail while I made Nora oatmeal. She came into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. Are we still going to Grandma's for Christmas brunch? She asked, careful. I crouched beside her. No, I said. Not this year. Her face tightened for a second, like she was bracing for disappointment. Then she asked, did I mess up? I shook my head. You didn't mess up. I paused. They did. She stared at me like she didn't fully understand, but she wanted to, so I kept it simple. You don't have to be where you're not treated kindly. Her shoulders lowered a little, like her body had been holding something heavy. Oh, she whispered. Then she asked, can we make pancakes instead? Yeah, I said. We can make pancakes. While Nora mixed batter, I checked my voicemail. My dad's first message was all fake calm. Larry, call me back. We need to finalize the vacation payments. Beth's was sharper. Are you seriously doing this? The kids are counting on you. Then my dad again, his voice tight now. I tried to use the card to finish paying the airline fees. It declined. Fix it. No, please. No. What's going on? Just an order. I deleted the voicemails. Then I got a text from my Aunt Diane, my dad's sister. Your dad is spiraling. What happened? I hesitated. Then I typed back. He gave me a bill for a vacation I'm not invited to. Nora wasn't included. I'm done. Diane replied almost immediately. About time. Call me later. That message felt like someone opening a window in a stuffy room. Because Diane had always been the one adult in my family who saw the dynamic for what it was. By the time New Year's rolled around, the vacation was still happening. Not because I paid, but because my family was nothing if not stubborn. Beth posted vague stuff online about hard seasons and people showing their true colors. My dad told anyone who would listen that I was being manipulated by that kid. That's what he called Nora. Not my daughter. Not his granddaughter. That kid. Then, 2 weeks later, on a Monday morning, my phone buzzed again. Beth. 3 missed calls. A text that read, "What did you do?" Then another, "We are at the airport." Then another, "The cards are declining." I stared at the screen for a long second. Nora was eating cereal at the table, humming to herself while she colored a picture of a penguin. Normal life. The life I was protecting. My phone rang again. Dad, this time. I answered. Not because I wanted to argue, but because I wanted one clean sentence. Larry, my dad snapped. No greeting. Fix your card. It's not my card, I said. It's connected to your account, he barked. It was, I said. You're not on it anymore. Silence. Not shock. Rage loading. Then he said, low and dangerous, you can't do that. I can't? I said. And I did. In the background, I heard airport noise. Announcements. Rolling suitcases. A kid whining. That kid, I guessed. My dad hissed. We're at the counter. The agent is looking at us like we're criminals. I didn't respond. He pushed harder. The kids are here, Larry. I looked at Nora. She was still humming, still coloring, still peaceful. I said, so is mine. Beth's voice cut in, loud and panicked. Dad said you were still paying. Larry, you can't do this right now. I didn't agree to pay, I said. I wasn't invited. Beth made a frustrated sound, like she was trying to chew through a wall. You're punishing the kids. I kept my voice steady. No. I'm stopping a pattern. My dad exploded then. You're a selfish, I didn't let him finish. I said the sentence I'd practiced in my head 100 times. I won't fund a family my daughter isn't part of. Then I hung up. My hands were shaking after, but not from fear. From adrenaline. From doing something I'd never done. Choosing my child over their comfort. Later, I learned what happened at the airport from Diane. Because Diane had friends everywhere and a mouth that didn't stay quiet. My family had gotten to the gate with their rolling bags and matching sweatshirts. They tried to check luggage, declined. They tried a different card, also declined, because Beth had been leaning on my travel card for extras without even realizing she was doing it. They tried to pay the resort deposit online, declined. My dad had apparently turned red, then purple, then started demanding to speak to someone in charge, like the airline had personally betrayed him. And because my dad was my dad, he doubled down instead of adjusting. He told the airline agent, loud enough for strangers to hear, that his son always pays. As if that was a legal argument. The agent didn't care about my family's tradition of using me. She cared about payment. No payment, no luggage. No resort deposit, no check-in. No rental car, no keys. Beth's husband started yelling at Beth. Beth started crying. Tanner started whining that they were ruining everything. And my dad, in the middle of it all, kept saying, this is Larry's fault. They still boarded the plane, apparently, because the tickets were purchased already. But they landed with no rental car, no hotel confirmation, in a resort that wouldn't hand over room keys without the deposit. They spent hours in a lobby, arguing, calling people, trying to transfer money between accounts like it was a magic trick. And for the first time in years, they didn't have my account to lean on. The consequences weren't dramatic. No one got arrested. No one got harmed. They just hit the wall of reality. And reality didn't care about my dad's entitlement. The fallout came fast. My dad showed up at my house 2 days after they returned, pounding on the door like he owned it. Nora was in her room, doing homework. I opened the door and stepped outside, closing it behind me. My dad's face was tight, his eyes bloodshot, like he hadn't slept. "You embarrassed me," he said. I didn't argue that point. I just asked, "Did you invite Nora?" He blinked like the question was stupid. "That's not, did you invite her?" I repeated. He clenched his jaw. The vacation was for the kids. "She is a kid," I said. He scoffed. "You know what I mean." And there it was. The same line, every time. "You know what I mean?" Meaning, not her. I kept my voice calm. "No more," I said. My dad's nostrils flared. "No more what?" "No more money," I said. "No more access. No more bills handed to me like I'm your employee." He tried to step forward. "You owe," "I don't owe," I cut in, still quiet. "I helped because I thought I was part of this family. You made it clear I'm not, unless I'm paying." My dad stared at me like he'd never heard someone speak to him that way. Then he shifted tactics, because he always did. He softened his voice just slightly. "You're really choosing her over your blood?" I felt something settle in my chest. A clean, cold clarity.